Is this the most shocking Gregg Wallace story thus far, guys? Now, we have some resurfaced footage from the satirical programme Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe. Maybe you guys know it, maybe you used to watch it, it was on BBC4. It was a satirical and caustic take on the state of television, and it aired on a weekly basis. It was really actually quite funny. Charlie Brooker's got quite an acidic tongue, and it was an enjoyable show if you like to see bits of TV ripped to shreds. They used to have a segment in the show called True Talent or something like that, where people would relay horror stories of working with celebrities. And we have this particular moment from an episode a few years ago, but when MasterChef was definitely on, in which we have a woman talking about her time as a runner researcher on a cooking show in which the presenter behaved in the following way. Have a watch, see what you think. Yes, there is a bit of bad language. Yes, there are some descriptions of a sexual nature, just so you know before you watch. Here we go.
One time I was working as a researcher on a cooking show, and one of the celebrity chefs, no names mentioned, had a real reputation for being a slimy bastard. And was constantly flirting with all the production team. This one time, I remember after one of the shows, me and a runner were clearing up and just chatting away and stuff, and he came up behind us with a baguette in between his legs and started waving it around, and then he started wanking the baguette. Then he picked up a carrot and started giving it a blowjob right in front of us. We stood there watching him for a minute and then just carried on clearing up and chatting. And after a while, he just put the baguette and the carrot down and just left silently. I mean, what a cock.
Now, no, she doesn't mention Gregg Wallace in that video, because obviously they knew they couldn't, but it very well could be him. No one is saying it is him. I am not saying it is him. I am just wondering if it could be. It could be. I don't know who else on the list of, celebrity chef slime balls we could pick, but many of them I know do have a dubious reputation, but it seems that this fits in with the way Gregg Wallace has been alleged to behave. What do you think? Write your comments below. And I just want to say something, and that is that there's a lot of mixed feeling about this whole Gregg Wallace scandal. But I can tell you this, as someone who's worked on, low-budget films, TV and all that kind of stuff, one thing people need to understand is that when you work with these kind of people, you are spending hours with them. Sometimes you will show up to film something and they give you a set time to come onto set, and you'll be there at 9 AM in the morning, and because of various bits and pieces they may not actually end up filming with you till 12, and all that time you're spending sitting, chatting with the presenters, and if one of them is constantly rude and crude, it gets very boring and very wearing very quickly, because unless you're willing to fire back with filthy jokes all the time, there's nothing to say, and it brings the whole atmosphere down. And I'd like to put on top of that, that's just from my selfish perspective, if you're a woman, it's a different story. Most of the women I've met in my life, not all, but most of them I've met in my life, don't like constant dirty jokes. They just don't. And take it from someone who's done stand-up. Even when I do stand-up shows, I've noticed that after a while there are certain dirty jokes. I literally watch the audience and I see the women's faces fall when a comic will start talking about dirty jokes that apply specifically to women. When they start talking about women's private parts or that kind of stuff, I can see women's faces fall in the audience and they start disconnecting from that particular comedian because they're like, I don't want to hear this. Do you know what I mean? So I quite understand why these people would be offended and why they'd be annoyed that this is allowed to happen, because it wears you down and it makes for a very unpleasant experience after a while. And I do wonder, how far did it actually go? What else do we not know that's eventually going to come out? Because where there's smoke, there's fire, let's be honest. It's not going to be just, oh, he did this and that. There's going to be more somewhere, I reckon. But again, alleged, got no evidence to back it up. But I think this story goes to show that if it was him, then, hey, I would find that. How would you respond to that? He's the star. What do you do? Do you know what I mean? What do you say? Who's going to believe you? If you said that story that we just watched to a producer or an executive at the BBC, who's going to believe you? If you say to them, yeah, I know I'm just a run on the show, but last night the star of the show came in and pretended to do sexual things with a carrot and a baguette, they'll laugh you out of the room, I think. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks as always for watching, and catch you later.